And don't forget to order your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book, Stiff Arming Football Myths, an excellent book that you can find on our website at footballgameplan.com/books, available in both PDF as well as paperback form. Montreal travels to Ottawa to take on the Red Blacks, and for the Montreal Alouettes in this game, quarterback Jonathan Crompton's efficiency will be key. He played an efficient game last week, which is why they were able to come away victorious. He has to do the same this week versus a Red Blacks defense that will be looking to cause all kind of havoc in the passing game. And I would also keep defensive end Aaron Lavaris on the move. This is a guy that can get tremendous pressure up front opposite of John Bowman. He can play left end or right end. Keeping him on the move will keep that offensive line of the Red Blacks guessing and could ultimately allow him to get pressure on Henry Burris. And I would attack Antoine Pruneau in coverage. He's a rookie defensive back. I think that's the weakest link in that secondary for the Red Blacks. Find ways to isolate him and attack him in the passing game. And for the Red Blacks in this game, the offense has to be able to sustain drives. This has been an ongoing issue for the Red Blacks all season long, and if they can't sustain drives versus Montreal, they can end up losing this game at home. And along that offensive line, they have to be able to communicate. We talked earlier about how Aaron Lavaris is always in the backfield along with John Bowman, but this is an Alouettes defense that also does a great job in blitzing their linebackers, so they have to be able to communicate up front to be able to pick up those blitzes and stunts that the Alouettes love to send. And the biggest matchup they're going to have to win defensively is Jovan Johnson, the outstanding cornerback, going against the big-time wide receiver Duran Carter. If he can take Carter away, it's going to force Crompton to go to other targets consistently, which is a win for that Red Blacks defense. I like the Alouettes in this ball game. Offensively, Crompton looks to have hit his stride and has done well in the absence of Troy Smith while he recovers from injury, and I think he'll do a great job in this ball game versus a Red Blacks defense that will be tired because their offense won't be able to sustain drives because of that Alouettes tough defensive front seven. Pivotal game out west between Saskatchewan and Edmonton. Both teams coming here with outstanding records, and for the Roughriders in this game, they have to be able to win in space. Edmonton puts a lot of pressure on your perimeter defense, and you have to be able to win in space defensively if you want to have a chance. And you have to make quarterback Mike Riley beat you from the pocket. This is a guy that wants to extend the play with his legs, get outside that pocket, and break contain of your defense, and you have to be able to force him to play within that tackle box to get him on the ground, and that way you can make some plays on the ball. And you have to win on the hashes offensively. Those slot backs have to be able to perform, and those halfbacks have to be able to cover the slot backs, the talented slot backs of Edmonton, if they want to come away victorious on the road. And for the Eskimos in this game, I will go with a quick game on offense. Because of the pressure that the Saskatchewan Roughriders can bring with their defensive front seven, you won't have enough time back there for those long developing plays in the passing game. So I would look for more slip screens, more smoke screens, more sprint draws. Those type of plays, getting the backs out in the flat and on flare routes, could help you have success versus an over-aggressive defensive front. And that offensive line in the running game is going to be huge. This is one aspect of their offense that has to get going this week. The best way you can defeat pressure is running right at it, so that offensive line will have to do their part up front against the Riders' defensive line. And they always have to account for Weston Dressler as a receiver. This is a guy that they move around the formation, and when you have a young, inexperienced quarterback in Tino Sinceri, he's going to lock in on Weston Dressler all day long, so you can have to account for him no matter where he's aligned on offense, take him out of the game, and force Sinceri to make other decisions outside of going to their biggest playmaker. Of the Riders football team all season long has been their play on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and that's why they're able to sustain success even without Darian Durant back there at quarterback. Tino Sinceri has been well protected in the pocket, and he can run the football against anyone, and we know about their defensive line being able to get pressure and slow down your opponent's running game. So I like the Riders to win this one in the trenches and knock off Edmonton. Another pivotal matchup here in Week 14 between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for the Tiger Cats in this game, you have to wonder about the running game without C.J. Gable. He's not only an excellent tailback because of his vision and his acceleration in between the tackles, but he's a big-time part of their passing game because this is a guy that's a matchup nightmare for any linebacker. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to move the football on the ground without Gable. And Eric Norwood versus Glenn January is going to be the biggest matchup I want to see defensively. We know Norwood can apply pressure against any offensive line. Glenn January is by far one of the best offensive tackles in the CFL, and that's going to be a battle that the Tiger Cats will have to win if they want to have success. And quarterback Zach Caleros' accuracy has to improve. His deep ball accuracy, that is, has to improve. He's very accurate in the short to intermediate passing game, and there's going to be opportunities in this Blue Bombers secondary deep down the field for him to hit some plays, but he has to make sure that ball is delivered on time and accurate. Otherwise, he can get picked off or fall incomplete. And for the Bombers in this game, they're going to have to get back to Bomber football, what we saw in the beginning part of the season, where they were able to mash guys up front, get off the field on on second downs, and do a great job in special teams. If they can get back to Bomber football, and I think the bye week will help them do that, this is going to be a successful team moving forward. And the defensive battery has to improve. That's your 2 defensive tackles, your Mike backer, and your deep safety. I think right down the battery, they have to get better in the second part of the season. And they have to impose their will early in the secondary. They can't allow these guys to run free after the catch or have that confidence to catch the football and make one miss. Impose your will in the secondary. Get these guys to think twice about going across the middle of the field, and the Bombers can have some success this week versus the Ticats. I like the Ticats in this game, and although the bye week will help the Bombers moving forward, they'll be a much better football team in the second half, a much more consistent team. Right now, I think the Ticats have hit their stride and will put together an impressive run trying to capture the East Division. And finally, we have a huge battle in the West Division between the Calgary Stampeders and the BC Lions. And for the Lions in this ball game, they can't allow the Stamps to have balance. This is an offense in Calgary that's dealing with injuries at quarterback, at receiver, and they just get back John Cornish, but they can't allow these guys to have balance. Otherwise, it can be a long day. And they have to go aggressive early. Again, they're dealing with injuries, so you can get aggressive on the corners and applying pressure on Drew Tate, which could force some turnovers or batted passes at the line of scrimmage and get these guys off the field. And speaking of staying on the field, that offense for BC has to stay ahead of the sticks. They struggle right now in staying ahead of the chains and moving the football on second down. If they can't sustain drives, it gives Calgary that confidence to move forward offensively. And for the Stamps in this ball game, I look at the linebackers and coverage being the biggest X factor. We know Andrew Harris will be a huge component to the BC Lions offensive game plan. They'll try to get him involved in the screen game and out in the route on the perimeter. So those linebackers at the second level have to bring their A game in order to have some success. And on offense, if John Cornish is ready to go, you have to feed him the football, whether it be in the backfield or as a receiver. Get the best player involved on offense to give yourself a chance to win the game. And you have to win in the red zone. Right now, they're leaving way too many points out there on the field. They have to be able to punch the ball in the red zone, especially against a very tough defensive football team in BC. I actually like BC in this ball game. Way too many injuries right now on the offensive side for Calgary, and they may get some guys back defensively, but right now I think BC will be able to shut down their offensive attacking on offense. Look for these guys to improve dramatically in the red zone this week versus Calgary. I like BC to come away victorious on the road versus the Stamps. And I also want to give a huge shout out to CFL Fan Forums for always showing football game plan support.